Hi, my name is Kit, and I was conceived and born at Camp Lejeune, Jacksonville, North Carolina. And I have had chronic fatigue and chronic pain my entire life. I think even as a baby, it's not that I have fatigue constantly, but I have crashes, and I have always self-medicated that with isolation, exercise, sugar. Those are the big ones. Um, as long as I can remember. Actually, in my baby book, and my mom talks about how I needed to be jostled all the time. And once I could jump and walk and rock myself, I was much better. And exercise, riding a bicycle, yoga, really those are the big ones, big ones for me. But even just jostling myself is still how I self relieve chronic pain. um I have sort of the pain has really changed over the years. There's been times where it felt like a broken bone in my forearms. I have forearm stiffness, and now I have forearm weakness. Same exact muscles in my four legs. And then, well, the pain and movement and stiffness has moved up my body. It's always been very symmetrical. Um, these are very specific pain and stiffness points. The pain and stiffness moved into my sternum. It's been in my rib cage and the small of my back, and then most recently it has gone into my tongue. Not actually the tip of my tongue, but here, and my jaw, and the very top of my neck. Stiff. Usually, what happens, first of all, I can have crashes that are just more of like a flu-like crash flare. That's pretty common. That can actually happen several times a day, and it usually is caused by something. Um, any kind of like exhaust, or even tape, or I was just doing some contact paper, and that kind of fumes got me, and I was out, down and out, had to lay down for like 4 hours, because it's like a flu-like crash. That's happened my whole life, and ways to solve that is sugar, but sugar in the long run is a drug that does not work for me. um, and then exercise does help, and rest, but it's like if I am doing too much and prolonging that, it's sort of like you cannot sleep. I cannot have that. I can push it off, but then it will hit me even harder. So during a normal day, I will have a crash, and I'll recover. Okay. Well, if I'm working or traveling, I can kind of push off that crash actually. But then when I have a down moment, it hits me triple fucking hard, and I will have intense burning in my legs in these very specific spots. Almost it feels like strep throat burning. So that has happened in my legs. It's happened in my forearms all my life, especially right here. It is not like a random thing. Sometimes it does get worse and radiate, but it is so specific. And so when I was a kid, I thought my arms were broken several times. I went to the doctor. Actually, that was the very first time that I was called a liar. So I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but it hurts so bad. And I went to the doctor one time, and it was this arm. And then I went the next time, and it was the other arm. But I didn't actually even make that connection. I didn't even know. I didn't even understand that was a possibility, because it hurt so bad. I just couldn't imagine it wasn't broken somehow. So, uh, but then as I've gotten older and have had these longer, bigger flares, where it's like I'll travel for a few days, feel great, have a great time, come home, crash so hard. It's like I am convulsing. I can't get out of bed. I have I can't even like brush my dog or put dishes away but you know what I can do, and this is insane. I can exercise still, push-ups, hand balances. The most recent one, I came home from work and uh, my forearms were like the stiffest things in the entire universe. All I was doing was like hand balances, handstands, and push-ups, and planks, and down dogs, and all the yoga, all of it, doing all these motions, trying to just keep movement in my arms, in this specific area though. And really, and the next day was the first time I couldn't pick something up, and I had so much weakness. There was like no possible way of typing. And the same exact thing has happened in the same exact muscle group, really, but of the front of my leg. And it causes so much stiffness and makes my feet feel so heavy. I've had times where it was very bad, and I've had times where it's lifted and not been so bad. It definitely can come and go. It definitely reflects how I'm doing in all areas of my life. Stress has huge play in it. And then I've had it happen in my sternum, and this is really interesting, but see how my sternum goes like way down into my rib cage? Okay, where it's down in my rib cage, it doesn't hurt. It only hurts in the parts where it's connected to my rib cage. Does that make sense? So these parts, same thing. Inflammation feel of like burning inflammation for 3 days after a stressful travel, or any kind of stressful dinner. Parties are terrible for me, those sorts of events. Burning, then that can lift, but then just this insane stiffness. And I've worked this pain and stiffness out in yoga and have gotten it to be almost nothing again too. So then this last time the same thing happened, but it moved up the back of my neck, right here at the very base. Very specific. This is not like woo random. My jaws, my tongue, and also really, as it's settled in, it has been really in the deep of my sinuses. It was so weird. And my lips and my eyes, like, but that is faint, very faint, but I can feel it, and I can tell that movement is becoming stiffness. Man, so I found out I was born in Camp Lejeune. I knew that, but my family made the connection. The exposure of those chemicals to fetuses is like, a huge difference than a grown adult. Actually understanding that this has happened, that I have this exposure, has helped so much even with my family, because like we've all needed a reason why have I always been this way. And I've done all the things to try and cope. So my whole life I've really been addicted to sugar, for sure. Even as a young child, I remember like eating jelly in my closet. Apple jelly. And sugar is a way to cope with this crash for me. But in the long term, it makes the crashes much worse, and the symptoms much worse. What I have found helps me the most is actually a keto high fat diet, 1 meal a day, because these movements are also in my digestive system, and eating makes them worse. So it's like I just have problems emptying my stomach. I have problem, I think, just the fluid movement. And I've had other gastrointestinal issues, which I could make a whole a series of videos about. So I'm going to a neurologist at KU Med next week, and I'm working on my timeline. I'm working on my illustrated images of pain and stiffness, which I will make another video about between now and then, because I think a lot of people are in this position. I cannot be the only one, and this has been such a difficult road, and it's been such a difficult, what's the word, when you can't figure something out. Yeah, it's been that, and it's not getting any better. Having this exposure, knowledge of the exposure of Camp Lejeune, is going to be part of my diagnosis, which is probably going to happen like next week. And I'm really nervous about it. I'm so nervous. Anyways, we'll find out. Thanks for listening. Peace and love.